Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
Welcome back to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute, a podcast where we are breaking down and celebrating the film Young Frankenstein, one discount seesaw flight at a time. I'm Alan Sanders.
And I'm Walt Murray.
And it's the two of us together, just you and I. We already did that joke yesterday, so what can we do today?
Wait,
just the two of us?
Oh, just the two of us.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I am the captain to your Tennille. I am the Sonny to your Cher. I am the Batman to your Robin.
So you're going to ski downhill?
I am the Fudge Man to Throbbing.
Now we're getting
Wait a minute. That's but thanks for playing. Oh, like what I say the other day, like thing one and thing two. That's all we are.
Yeah,
the Cat in the Hat let us out and said, "Here, go play.
Get out of here."
I feel like Daffy Duck or something.
Yeah, it's like Moe and Larry.
Yeah, we could. We're the Two Stooges.
We're the Two Stooges. We really all three rolled into.
It never really worked, you know. So there's like something missing.
Yeah. Where are Barry and Mike?
Yeah,
Curly and Shemp.
The two of them make. Yeah, I guess it would be the third and the fourth Stooge.
Yes. Yeah, or Curly Joe.
Sorry, I was never a Shemp fan.
No,
never a Shemp fan.
No, if a Shemp came on, I usually left and did something else or turned the channel.
What happened to Moe? It's like
Curly.
No, I know, but it's like it looks like Moe, but it's an old version of Moe. It's like,
which they were actually brothers, right?
I think so. I think they were, and it's just. But I was like, oh, but that's Moe. But that's so. Then where's
It's the not funny guy.
The not funny one. Well, I guess. First of all, I guess that explains why we're doing this, and our significant others don't understand why we're doing this.
That's right.
We both love the Three Stooges.
That's exactly right. And I guess in some ways they're like, at least they'll get it out of their system.
Yeah. The other day we had the conversation where it was like, wait, now you're going to do more of these? I was like,
oh, we're just getting started.
Oh, huh. Did that slip by you or something? Boy, do I feel like I've got some splaining to do. Yeah. I'm the Ricardo to my Lucy at home. Only it's the exact. No, I think I'm the Lucy. I'm the one who's just all over the place, and she's the Ricardo.
Well, and you know where they ended.
She's like, Alan, you got some splaining to do.
Oh yeah, I get that all the time.
Well, I want to go to your house. No safer there.
No, that wouldn't be any safer.
All right, well, let's start off this minute number 67. Minute number 67, we continue with the girl and Frankenstein's creature having just finished throwing the remainder of the flour into the well, and she asked the question, what shall we throw in now? And what I love, again, we'll get at the end, we get to a blind man praying, but what again, the whole time we've been going back and forth to how much of the original are we keeping, how much is changing, because the audience that would have seen this in the theater, the friends of Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks and that 1974 crowd would have been very well aware of the implications of this scene.
Yeah, absolutely. And I talked to my dad a couple times about this movie as we've been working through it, and he would have been a kid. He would have been well, actually, the original Frankenstein came out about 10 years before he was born. So he said when Young Frankenstein came out, when he was an adult, he was well aware of what happened in this scene. So it would have been a very uncomfortable beginning to this scene for a lot of the audience.
Well, and we even get yet a light version of, well, there might be something up, because when she says, what are we going to throw in now? We cut to the creature who, for the very first time, looks at us, breaks the fourth wall for a moment, as if like, with a very mischievous look. Then he looks off and thinks further. Oh, wouldn't that be funny if? Like, you could just see the wheels turning in his head.
I've got a great idea of what could go in the well.
There's this loudmouth pretty little girl. It's like a pretty little flower.
Yeah, a little bossy brat. We can take care of this.
Now, for fans of The Walking Dead, all I keep thinking here is the scene when Carol takes the psychotic little girl for a walk, and all she says is, just look at the flowers.
Yeah.
It'll be all right. You just look at the flowers.
It's funny how in film and TV, I guess art in general, how often flowers don't turn out to be what we really want them to be in real life. The beautiful, peaceful, calming things that they should be.
They do tend to portend things other than what we would expect.
They sure do.
Well, in this case, we see Frankenstein's creature, played by Peter Boyle, doing some great emotive work once again. And it's a mischievous smile. There's no other way to explain it, but it's like, oh my God, he's up to something.
Oh, when I saw this, I thought that kid's going in the well.
Right.
That kid is definitely going in the well.
He's just like, huh. And just like, his eyes cut one way, and then it cuts the other way. It's like, she's kind of bigger.
Yeah.
And if I threw her in, I bet it would make a cool noise.
Make a great splash.
Kids love throwing things in water, don't they?
Adults love throwing things in water.
Yeah, but I mean, we keep saying how Frankenstein's kind of is like a kid.
Yeah, he is.
But don't kids love throwing rocks in the water, skipping rocks, just throwing stuff in water? I got in so much trouble by a neighbor when I was growing up. We had these man-made lakes in our subdivision. It was one of these pre-planned subdivisions where they had these like mini lakes that everybody could then have a house around the lake and you could swim. And of course, we didn't have the house on the lake. We were the house on the other side of the road of where the lakes were. Like, we weren't allowed to have the lake house. We had to have the house across the street from the lake houses. But we could all join the association, and it was cool because it was a real steep hill. And in the winter, growing up in Michigan, we had a chance to go sliding down these hills. And we always called them Suicide Hill because you'd go out over the lake. And if you went too soon and the lake hadn't fully frozen over, you were going to die.
You're going in the lake.
So we would go in the lake. We would go sledding all the time. But one day there was nobody else sledding. I was bored with my brother, and we were walking around the edge of the lake, which means we were basically walking through everybody else's personal private property. Mm-hmm. And we found one of the houses on the opposite side of where we sled. This guy had this big kind of rock garden with these rocks that were about the size of, not quite basketballs. They were big rocks. Maybe because I'm little. When I was little, maybe they were the size of softballs, but they were big to me. And we were like, oh, we can break the ice with these. So we started grabbing these rocks, and we're just chunking them down. And then we were eventually started cracking the ice. And then the first one that broke through, we were super excited. We didn't pay any attention to the homeowner coming up behind us. Yeah. He was none too happy with, I don't know how much he would have paid for said rocks. I didn't know at the time. I thought rocks were just something. Look, the rocks were just there.
Rocks.
So the rocks they were calling to me. They said, throw us in. We must be back in the water.
Right. They're Earth. They're free.
Set us free. We want to swim. So I just remember, and I didn't know what to say. I must have looked like because first of all, I lived in terror of my dad because I knew what corporal punishment was. I knew exactly what was going to be my way if the neighbor called my dad.
Yes.
I was going to get a beating.
I can relate.
And the guy was angry enough the way he approached us. I thought I was going to get a double beating. I was going to get the beating from the neighbor. The neighbor was going to be upset about the fact he had to give me a beating, which was going to make my mom upset to give me a beating to embarrass her, to then go after my dad and say, they embarrassed us and got our neighbor over here. You need to go beat them. It would have been a triple beating, one thing. I'm thinking, this wasn't worth it for rocks.
No. You really have to do something bigger.
No, I learned later, if I'm going to get in trouble, I might as well do something worthwhile.
Absolutely. Really smoke it.
But the one thing I will say, and that reminded me of, throwing things in the water, is we must have looked like we were about to wet ourselves, my brother and I, because the guy goes, I understand it's fun to throw things in the water, but maybe it's time you go home. And I will never forget that because he let us go. And I was like, we're free, but we were so terrified that we were, we didn't go do something bad again. We went straight home. We ran.
He accomplished
straight
his mission.
Home. Yeah. Oh, mission accomplished. Yeah. And I was like, I think I went home and made my bed. I think I straightened up, asked my mom if there's anything I could do. Why are you being so nice? No reason.
Prayed the phone didn't ring the rest of the afternoon.
Just in case, neighbor Jones or whatever his name is, knocks on the door later. I was waiting for your husband to come home to chat with you about your boys. Oh. That was weird. Did you ever try to get out of punishment by going to bed early?
Once. It didn't work.
That doesn't work.
Lesson learned.
I thought, surely if I'm asleep, my father would have mercy.
Yeah, the same guy who'd be saying, it's just a movie. He's saying, go get my belt.
Go get my belt, yeah. Oh, that sound. The sound with the belt coming through the belt loops fast.
Kids today just don't know that
understand.
Sound. They do not.
But on the flip side, I look at it this way. I mean, I've kind of got my, shit together as an adult, for the most part.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt. That and the speech about look, you're 18, I could go sign you up for the Marine Corps. Those two together.
You're either going to find a way to survive on your own, or you're going to let Uncle Sam take care of you.
Right.
So, yeah, when I just think of Frank thinking to himself, it was like me as a kid. Look, ice, rocks, water underneath the ice.
Yeah.
We should throw the rocks into the water and see if we can break the ice.
You can see the churning here of, how would this play out?
Yeah, exactly. We see it, it shows me that Frankenstein's creature seems to be getting smarter. He's learning.
Yeah, he is.
You know?
He is.
For the abnormal brain, he's learning pretty fast.
Yeah, there's still some cognitive ability there.
Exactly. There's something in the background there. Well, just after we see his expression, we don't know what he's going to do because now we cut back inside. We're obviously supposed to get the idea that it's been some minutes later because Papa is now sitting down in front of the door that's not boarded up, the window that is boarded up behind him.
Right.
And they're having this conversation. And the line is, in the script, which is different a little bit than what he delivers, the line is supposed to be, I've searched everywhere. All of our neighbors, no one has seen her. Then, maybe she was in the bathroom when you looked. Are you sure she's not upstairs?
Yeah, and it's kind of horrifying to think about, but we had a situation where we couldn't find one of our daughters, and she's the Wanderer.
They call me the Wanderer. Yeah, the Wanderer. I roam around.
And, initially we thought, there's nothing to worry about. She's at one of her friend's house or she's out, roaming around. And we got frantic enough that we ended up calling the police. And we found her. She had wandered off into the woods and gotten her bike stuck and all that. But the frantic feeling that you get when all of a sudden the kid's not where they're supposed to be and you can't find them, I can unfortunately relate to what the parents are going through
So
here.
you had a kid that liked to just get out and go.
Constantly. Well, in fact, one night when my wife was pregnant with our youngest, we had gone to the grocery store, and she decided it was time to run. So she bolts down the aisle, and she gets to the end of the aisle, and she says, I'd busted up my ankle right before this, so I'm hobbling down after her like Frankenstein.
Walk this way.
Yeah, exactly. And she turns around and she goes, are you going to hit me when you catch me? So all these people are like, oh my gosh, that guy beats his kids. And she takes off again. She runs to the beer. So I'm trying to keep my composure. And I'm, you're such a funny kid. I'm going to kill you.
I'm going to kill you.
So I get almost to her and she points at the beer and she goes, do you want to drink more of this? And so everybody in the store is looking at me like, that alcoholic beats his kids. and you can see a couple of knowing parents who are like, oh, yeah, that kid's going to get beaten.
The kid's going to get so destroyed.
And so I kind of scoop her up, and I'm, I love you so much, and ready to squeeze her. and my wife, of course, is dying laughing at this point. But, I've been there with the kids.
See, thankfully, of all four of our girls, I've never had a Wanderer. But my brother, Philip, who's the third one down of all four of us, he's a Wanderer, or was when he was younger. And I'll never forget, again, back in Michigan, growing up, not only did we have these lakes in the subdivision, the elementary school was actually in the subdivision. So it was a planned community, so all these kids could walk to school.
Sure.
It was close by. I literally did walk uphill in the snow. That's not a lie.
Yeah, that was how ours was.
And what was really weird is I was, we were, Catholic growing up, and it was a much different time in the 70s that we had catechism or church school, whatever you want to call it, CCD or whatever. We had that during the week, during school. And so a bus would come pick us up. All the kids that had to go to CCD would get picked up by a bus, taken to the church, get an hour of church school, come back to the elementary school. It was like no big deal. Who needs separation of church and state? Whatever.
Sure. No.
So we're all sitting outside, me and my friends. We're all like waiting for the bus, and we see down the road, we see this kid in the middle of the road, just kind of like just kind of wandering around, running like Igor. No straight lines. Zigzagging everywhere. Sidewinding everywhere. And I'm like thinking, whatever parents gave birth to that idiot, they're probably going, thank God he's not in the house anymore. Fred's like, yeah, that kid's an idiot. What's wrong with that? I'm like, wait a minute.
Cut the chain, let him run.
Starts getting a little closer. I'm like, there's a familiarity to that dummy. He gets a little closer. I'm like, oh my God, it's my brother Philip. He's like 3 years old. I had managed to walk a mile from the house and just wandered enough that he found the right turns to go. I think he saw people. Like, he just happened to see people at the end of the road. And I just head to the people.
Check it out.
And he goes, I'm like, oh my God. I got to call home. I'm sure I got to call home. I don't know what else to do. So I grabbed him, and, he thinks it's the coolest thing in the world. He's like, oh, I found my brother. So we go into the office, and we had to call my mom, who was frantic because she was the one looking for him. She was doing the you guys looking for him, and came and got him. And I don't know what was specifically done, but that problem cured itself pretty soon thereafter.
Yeah, I bet.
This was the one that my mom pulled this to me and my brother. The reason we weren't wanderers, they intentionally hid on us in a store when we were little.
That will solve the problem.
Real little. They knew where we were. They kept an eye out, but they were hiding from us. And I started bawling, and I'm going up to strangers, and all of a sudden my mom comes from out there and she goes, I thought I told you to stay right by me. Come to find out as an adult, that was a planned thing. They did it on purpose. I never left my mom's side. Ever. My brother worked for him. Philip, they tried that. He was like, woohoo, freedom. Oh. He was like Braveheart. He was like, we went running through the store. Mom was like, he'll freak out in a minute. He'll freak out in a minute. Okay, I'm freaking out now.
Yeah.
So, and it just never worked for him until shortly after that moment. He's always been that wild spirit. He's great.
Yeah, I think I got spanked more in Sears than anywhere else in the world. So, well, my brother took one at the Smithsonian that he'll never forget, but I got it at Sears.
I got spanked at Sears multiple times when I discovered tough skins were no longer cool. I'm not sure they were ever cool, but it became aware as I got older. The kids at school let me know how uncool those were.
See, I had a brief moment where I thought tough skins were cool, and that was because Sears used to have an ad where they had made trampolines out of tough skins. And so they showed these kids jumping on it, and then we went to try tough skins on. I was like, no, these suck.
Oh, no, I thought it was the coolest. Like, look at the double reinforced knees. They was like so thick you could hardly bend.
Right.
And it's like, you could get dragged behind a car and it's not going to wear a hole in these knees. That's why my mom loved them. I was like, oh, I got boys. Boys go out and they're always in their knees. And they're always wearing holes in their knees. Not with tough skins. Yeah. Those were not the clothes you wanted to buy for a child in the late 70s.
No, not unless you wanted
tough
to have
skins
a swirly.
And then Trax tennis shoes from Kmart.
Yeah, I remember Trax. Yep.
Oh, I was one hip little elementary school kid.
Yeah, it explains a lot.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? It explains so much.
Yeah, I had Trax. I had Tough Skins. I had, all that great stuff. I had the silk shirt with airplanes all over it. And
which the millennials today would probably think is cool because it's retro.
It's awesome. Yeah, right. I look like a hipster. the good thing I had going for me is I played hockey, so people wouldn't mess with me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got in fights on the hockey on the ice too.
More than a couple times.
See, you had at least size and going for you. I never did. I was always shorter and smaller than everybody.
Yeah, I was a defenseman, and I didn't have to put up with a whole lot.
Again, I look at where I've come, and obviously things worked out as okay, but I kind of wish I was a pretty advanced reader. So my mom thought it'd be cool to put me in school a year ahead of everybody.
Oh,
so I was always a year. In some cases, with the dumb kids, I was sometimes 2 years younger than people in my own grade.
Wow.
And it doesn't make a lot of difference in 4th, 5th grade, but 6th, 7th, 8th?
Makes a huge difference.
When everybody starts getting their growth spurt, and I'm still playing with, G.I. Joes, and they're out there talking about girls, and I'm like, girls, ugh.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with you? You don't like girls? What? Well, wait, am I supposed to? Because those things hadn't popped in my head yet. I was behind.
Year.
Oh, and then everybody drove before me. Everybody dated before me. I just did everything. So now I'm doing everything before everybody. So I'm like, fuck y'all. Can't wait to go to my 30-year high school reunion.
That's right.
Who else is on the radio? None of you.
Who else has a podcast about Wilder?
That's right. And I had a podcast too. That's right. I don't think I'm going to start off with the podcast. I'm not going to start.
Yeah, that kind of solidifies a lot of suspicions.
It would only work if I said, "So did you guys know I have a podcast now?" We do this thing about Gene Wilder, and it's 1 minute at a time. It's so cool. Yeah, that's what they would hear. Every one of my friends and not so friends. That's it. That's what they would hear. No, I'd be like, no, WSB Atlanta, right?
Well, did you see that thing going around Facebook a few weeks ago where it had it was the signs you are a nerd? And
did I have all of them?
My wife shared it and tagged me on it. And one of the ones was, you own t-shirts with obscure sci-fi emblems on them. Well, when that popped up, I was wearing my t-shirt with the Futurama spaceship on it.
That's awesome.
So I was like, well,
yeah, when did it become uncool to be allowed to wear t-shirts? My wife is so angry whenever I want to go in public wearing a t-shirt. I'm like, some of the coolest things I own are t-shirts.
Right. Yes. Well, and here we are. I'll do a little introspection here. Here we are talking about how we have a podcast here on the radio.
No, we have a podcast.
We both used to work for IBM.
Oh, dear Lord, yes, we didn't even get to modern day.
We have crazy, in-depth conversations about things like Star Wars, and we're talking about what's cool.
Wait a minute.
Yes, let us be the judge of that.
Oh, yeah, you let me be the judge. Let me pick the movies we're going to watch for the next 10 years.
Yeah, this is really cool.
Okay. Well,
as I ironed my Futurama t-shirt.
Yeah. Hey, one of my favorite t-shirts has the 3 best spaceships in the world on it. It's got the Starship Enterprise, the Millennium Falcon, and the Serenity.
That is a great t-shirt.
It's awesome. Getting back from our days of reminiscence, we've got the parents in here, freaking out about, did they miss the child? By the way, that's how this all started. Missing a child.
Yes.
And they decide, let's go run upstairs and go check. Once again, now we're thinking they're going to learn that the child's not out there because we know where the child is. Well, the last we left the child, we're thinking maybe Frankenstein's creature is going to throw her in the well. Instead, now again, the pendulum shifts again. We're outside next to a seesaw. Or teeter-totter. What did you call it growing up?
Seesaw.
Yeah, I called it seesaw as well. But then when I heard the term teeter-totter, I'm like, what the hell's a teeter-totter?
Yeah, I couldn't figure that one out.
No, it's seesaw. So we get the seesaw, and the girl is a little demanding.
Man, she is really demanding.
She wants him to sit down. He's kind of looking at her like, what do you mean sit down? It's all the way up here. How am I going to get my big butt up on that seat up there? And she's like, I said sit down.
Well, and I was going to say, Peter Boyle, just getting up on that seesaw is pretty impressive. I mean, he is so huge and all that gear on and swinging that gigantic boot over. Just that in and of itself is pretty impressive.
It is. He does. When he finally is told what to do and takes orders well, right around second 23, he is leaping up, leg over, jumps down, and then we cut in second 25 to a close-up of him, obviously sitting all the way to the ground. It looks like he came down pretty quickly.
Yes, and he's watching the results of physics.
And who knew there was an airline in Transylvania? This is like the discount airline. This is Seesaw Air.
Flingingstein Airlines.
Flingingstein. Because he does this beautiful, I don't know what they did for his eye line, but I started laughing with just his expression of going, they didn't put the sound in, but you can almost hear the whistle of like the flying through the air, and he's just like, oh boy, she went far.
And this is kind of like that scene earlier when Jean's bow tie pops out open.
Mm-hmm.
I could watch this like 10 times and laugh out loud at his expression as he watches her sail through the air.
Yeah, because from second 25, or 24 actually, when it pops, all the way to about 27 when she lands, that's it. It's a moment. She's flying.
That's it.
Now, this is what I love about the fact that Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks wanted to make sure people knew it's a comedy. Even when it gets heavy in places, it's a comedy. So the parents are frantic. We don't know what's going to happen with the monster. How are we going to move from this scene? What's happening? Story construction. He sits down. She goes flying. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she's gone. Like they're not even going to show. Like she's, that's it. No, never see her.
At first, I thought she was going down the well. I thought he was going to fling her right down the well.
She would have arced and landed right.
She's going in the well one way or another.
Oh my God. I never even thought of that. That would have been funny.
That was exactly what I thought the first time.
That would have been funny.
That would have been great.
But instead, She goes flying right through her bedroom window, and she lands. Actually, they speed up the film just a little bit, but she face plants into her pillow.
She does. That is not a soft landing.
No, it's not. She's like,
and it knocks her out.
Yeah, she is. She's knocked out of her bed.
And then the parents run in and, not realizing she's actually probably in a coma, they're relieved to see her and see that she's okay.
I'm wondering how hard she hit, because when we first see her land, all of her the comforter's at the foot of her bed.
Right.
And then
and now she's covered.
And now she's all covered up and she's sound asleep. Night night.
Yeah, that's a pretty hard hit.
Yeah, I guess the covers were supposed to get that they just poofed up and landed on her, because there's no way that the previous shot matches this shot.
No, I'm kind of guessing that might have been an error.
Yeah, I'm sure. It should have been where she landed, and the covers kind of did fall on her, but they didn't. So it's sped up to show it a little faster. And this was actually done on a wire. This was not in the day of, digitally erasing.
Right.
There is a wire there that's flying her in, and they sped up the film to try to make it as short of a moment as possible to get the idea that she has been
it looks great.
Catapulted into her bedroom.
It looks awesome.
It is. It's perfect. It's the perfect way to end this little 2-minute scene that you and I decided to share with our listeners without having a guest on with us. And both parents come rushing in, and they realize, oh, she is in bed like she's been all the time. They look at each other in the typical 50s style of, oh, mom, oh, dad,
oh, ma, oh, pa.
Yeah. And
shucks.
There's a clock in the background, and it's real hard to tell the time because both those needles look like they're the exact same length.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out too.
Because it's either coming up on 45 minutes till 5, like 4:45, or it's coming up on 9:30 or 8:30. Excuse me, on 8:30.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's 8:30 at night.
I don't think so either.
So I'm going to go with it's the late afternoon nap while we're fixing dinner. Go take your nap while we're getting ready to make dinner. So I think it's late afternoon.
Yeah, that would kind of make sense.
And it makes sense if it's late afternoon, because as they both hug each other and we realize, okay, we're going to fade to black, we then come into a new scene, a completely new location. We're looking at some kind of a house or cottage in the middle of the Transylvania forest.
Yep, and it looks like night is falling.
Yeah, it's definitely getting darker outside. It doesn't look pitch black just yet, but it looks like dusk.
Yeah, and this is a cool little, Bavarian cabin type of thing, and he's got a pot going over the fire, and it's a neat pan. We kind of get to see that it is a small little cabin, but it's very well lived in, very orderly and neat. And then we're led to a surprise gentleman praying.
Yes, it does. And here's the moment where, and I know we may or may not get to it with Doug tomorrow. I know we're going to get to where the music's coming from, but up until the gag, we're at a place in the film where, once again, we can't tell, is the music we're hearing the soundtrack, or is the music really there?
Right. And, we struggle so much with this because I want to jump forward because this is such a great scene. But, yes, we have to leave right at that point.
Right, so we've got an old man praying. So let's see if we can get an idea of who do we think this guy is. By the way, that is not an actual house that we're seeing. That is actually a model. It's a miniature as they slowly push into that house there. And if you pay real close attention, it's got that sense where it almost looks real, but there's a sense of it's not quite real.
Right.
Sort of like the castle, at the very beginning that we talked about, that they didn't go find a castle or build one on a hill.
Right. Well, and being in black and white, it gives them a little bit of room to do stuff like that.
It does. It hides some of the what might be errors or things like that. As we finally, the camera kind of pans across the room and then eventually pushes in, we've got a man at the very last moment with what looks like prayer beads in his hands, beard, long hair, almost monk-like here, praying. But there's no church, so I'm not sure who he is or what he is, but he seems like a devout man deep in prayer.
Is he the CDC teacher?
CCD?
CCD.
CCD.
See, I'm Presbyterian. I always grew up thinking CCD was like all the kids going to court or something. I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, it's for the special kids whose parents don't make a lot of money.
For the kids.
Why does he not have to pay for his lunch? Shh, don't. The auto industry's going through some tough times. It's Detroit.
It is Detroit. Yeah.
So, by the way, true story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on free and reduced lunch for a while. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, you
Didn't realize that
eat
was
more.
another thing that you can get picked on for. Can't afford your lunch. What a loser.
Man, as a kid, everything is
I'm like,
makes
what are
you
you
a
talking
target.
about? I don't know what's going on. All I know is my mom and dad said, show them this slip, and you... How do you know it wasn't already paid for at the beginning of the year? Freaking kids are mean.
Oh, kids are terrible.
They're
Kids are
so
the worst.
terrible.
Some adults are.
I would have punched him if I was me now.
Yeah.
Not then.
In fact, who is that guy?
Exactly. Yeah.
Some people I need to.
I need to go back and look up some of my friends. They want to talk about a high school reunion. I want an elementary school reunion.
Yeah, where is that jerk?
Hey, Biff. Remember when you thought you were so cool?
Well, they're probably still in Detroit, so you win.
No, you're right. I was really horrible. We want to come spend the weekend on my yacht? That'd be my luck. The
Yeah,
guy that
no.
was like the biggest jerk turned out to be the most successful guy in the class.
But he's still a big jerk.
Yeah, he was still a big jerk. Say that to my brother. You're just a big jerk. All right. Well, before we wrap up this minute, Walt, anything in this minute here, minute number 67, that we did not get to with the parents and Heidi Helga doing her little Transylvania flight on the Transylvania, what do you call it? The Flingingstein? What do you call it? Flingingstein?
Flingingstein Airlines.
Flingingstein Airlines.
Well, another weird Transylvania business.
Yeah, well, it's definitely one of those discount airlines.
Yeah. It's free, but it costs you.
Yeah. How far do you want to go? We only have
Upstairs.
We only have a certain range with this flight.
It's about 45 feet.
45 feet.
Well, something we forgot to mention yesterday is Helga Heidi's mom, and that's Linda Kristen, and she was a big character actor around this time. She was in a good number of other programs and movies and stuff, including something called Promises in the Dark, Love at First Bite in 1979, a Dracula
Really?
kind of spinoff. She was on one of my favorite shows. She played the woman.
Wasn't Love at First Bite with it's on the tip of my tongue.
George Hamilton.
George Hamilton. Yes.
Yes. Yep. He was Dracula in that. She played the woman in an episode of the Rockford Files, which is one of my favorite shows. She was in 1978. She played in what I'm sure was a fine movie called Die Sister Die. She was in the Hardy Boys Nancy Drew mystery. She was on Little House on the Prairie, and she was on the Doris Day Show. So she had
a long career.
quite a long career. And she's no longer with us.
What
She's
year was the
passed
Doris
away.
Day show?
Oh gosh, that had to be
Was that late 50s
that.
or early 60s?
Well, she was on an episode in 1972, but it ran
Okay.
from 68 to 73.
60, okay, so it started in the late 60s, and wow.
Yeah, and her first movie was called Tom Curtin in 1966. So she had a good long career. Again, another one of those really talented kind of character actors that they brought in for this movie. And unfortunately, she died in 2008.
Okay, 10 years ago from when
yeah.
we're doing this podcast.
Yep.
Or at least recording it, depending when you guys are stumbling across it. Who knows?
Yeah, it could be 100 years from now.
I'm not going to pay for it that long. I better be self-sustaining by that point.
Yeah, let's hope.
All right. Anything else that we didn't get to then for minute 67?
No, I think we've covered it pretty well. Really enjoyed going through those 2 minutes and covering that scene. And we do keep going back to this, that this is a great monster movie along with being a great comedy.
And you could tell how much Brooks and Wilder must have loved all of these Frankenstein movies when they were young, because they packed so many references to not just the original, but really the big four. I mean, Frankenstein vs. Wolfman was a little weird.
Right.
But, I mean, for the main ones, they've got pieces from each of them somewhere in this movie.
Yeah, they do. And they really, if those two had decided that they weren't comedians, they could have made some great horror movies, monster movies. They could have made some other great dramas. I mean, they were just incredibly talented and really brought that to this film together.
All right. Well, before we start to tease what's coming tomorrow in terms of the content, I want to do a plug for Doug Greenberg, who will be joining us tomorrow. We're able to get him in for the rest of the week. He'll be joining us from Hump Day through Friday to talk about the blind man scene, a scene he actually really wanted to be part of the show. And he's part of the Rocky Minute, so we'll be bringing him in tomorrow. And you can learn all about him from the Rocky Minute. Just do a search for that if you want to follow that film. If somebody wants to go get caught up on the Wilder ride and this movie we're talking about 1 minute at a time, Walt, where's a good place?
we're all over the place. And obviously, we're right here. Well, a lot of you are listening to us on iTunes, and we would encourage you. We're learning more and more about the algorithm here that they're using. But it's important, if you like what you're hearing, go out and give us a 5-star rating or whatever rating you think we deserve, and then make a comment. And that comment somehow triggers all the magic inside of Apple.
Yeah, the comment shows you actually care about the rating you're giving, and so it gives it more weight.
Yeah, that seems to be what's going on. And that will push us up the charts when people either search for Young Frankenstein, for
like Mel Brooks, Gene Wilder, Madeline Kahn, Terry Garr, Marty Feldman, any of those.
Comedies.
Because we're talking about all of them. So it's not just about making us feel good with the 5-star. It really is about trying to help others find this podcast. It might be something they're looking for.
Absolutely. And then one other thing that we haven't really talked about before, if you know somebody who's a Gene Wilder fan or a fan of this movie or any of his other works, invite them to come to our group. Come over on Facebook.com/The Wilder Ride. Encourage them to join the listeners group. There is a place in the listeners group that you can invite them. They'll just have to answer those quick questions and become a member of the group. So if you've got friends out there who, like us, have an appreciation for these types of films, please invite your friends.
And come back tomorrow. Seriously, we're only halfway through the week, and we need to find out what's the story behind this blind man praying. What's he praying for? What's he praying about? Why is he in the middle of the woods all by himself? And we will end minute 68 tomorrow with the blind man saying the words, "Forgive me, I didn't realize you were a mute." Who is he talking to, and why isn't this person able to speak? We'll have to figure all that out tomorrow when you return for The Wilder Ride.
And I don't even know where to go from there. I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Flingingstein Air.
Flingingstein Air.
I want to know what the flight attendant...
No seat belts, no barf bags.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Frankenstein Air.
Well, I can guarantee one thing. They do not have a Transylvania accent.
We don't want you to buckle up because your flight will be really, really short that way. We need you to keep your arms and legs wide apart and get ready to flap just in case we don't quite hit down hard enough. You might need that extra couple of feet.
Your TSA shakedown's longer than your flight.
Exactly. The weapons you brought on board are allowed to leave with you.
It is Transylvania.